The next major release within the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise is just 3 months away, and it's going to be an interesting one to say the least. We have a remaster of the beloved Sonic Generations, which is universally loved by most Sonic fans. We also have a brand new Shadow the Hedgehog based campaign or game, or I really don't know what to call it, but to me it's almost like a quasi sequel to Shadow the Hedgehog from 2005. We're gonna get a lot of lore, we're gonna get some insights, some background information, and continued insight to the story of Shadow the Hedgehog, primarily due to the fact that the new Sonic movie is going to feature Shadow, so he's going to be a big heavy emphasis, especially with the potential of newer fans pouring into the franchise. Further expanded insight into the complicated backstory of Shadow the Hedgehog is going to be a major victory for Sonic fans, but we may have just gotten some insight as to one of these mysterious reveals for the actual game. Let me explain. According to Tales channel, which is one of the greatest Sonic news sources, so if it comes from them, we definitely got to talk about it. So the Japanese Sonic and Shadow Generation site showcases both sides of the game, interestingly teasing that another character may be playable in Shadow Generations. So we're currently on the Japanese side of the website, and if you look right here, you have modern Sonic right here, you know, with the little render and whatever. I actually translated it from Japanese to English. I don't really know if this is going to be accurate, but it says, Sonic is a blue hedgehog who loves freedom and hates crooked things. While he was enjoying a happy birthday party with his friends, the world was suddenly turned into chaos by an attack by a mysterious monster. Sonic was thrown into a strange white space, but then you click on Classic Sonic, right? So this is like two separate characters. It says Classic Sonic, another Sonic blue hedgehog who is active in another space-time. Due to a space-time anomaly caused by a mysterious monster, he meets modern Sonic and runs together to save the world. What kind of performance will the two Sonics show? As you can see, it's like two little character bios. Again, this is translated from Japanese to English, so of course it could be inaccurate, but you get a general gist of what it's supposed to mean. Now, when you click on the Shadow the Hedgehog portion of the website, you will notice that it says right here, Shadow, here's like his little bio. He's a black hedgehog with a 2D appearance, just like Sonic, so I think this, you know, you can see that there's a rough, loose translation. The ultimate life form created by Professor Gerald, the genius scientist of the century. Driven by an ominous omen, he heads to the Ark, where he has a nightmarish reunion with an impossible being and becomes embroiled in a major incident. If you look right here, you have an image of Shadow the Hedgehog, but you also have a blank coming soon. So what does this indicate? Well, if you look at the contrast between the modern Sonic portion of the website, you have a clickable Classic Sonic with an actual character bio, you have a clickable modern Sonic with an actual character bio. Swap it over to Shadow mode, you have Shadow with the character bio, and then you have coming soon with something that is clickable, technically not, but you see how my cursor on my mouse lights up. This is supposed to indicate that, you know, something's gonna go there. It's gonna be a hyperlink that works with a character bio. So you understand why Tales channel has tweeted out that there's potentially another playable character coming to Sonic and Shadow Generations. In particular, we have the Shadow Generations portion, which obviously will feature Shadow. So who are the options for playable characters that can appear in the new Sonic and Shadow Generations game? If that's the case, if we're gonna get a new playable character, that's gonna be cool. I don't anticipate it'll be a new character. I recently reacted to an interview with Takashi Iizuka, who's the head of Sonic Team, and he was actually talking about the timeline placement for Sonic and Shadow Generations. It's actually interesting to know. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not really a surprise, but it's worth pointing out that he does confirm that the game does take place during Sonic Generations as far as the timeline goes. So it's going to be cool to kind of see this contrast of where was Shadow when Sonic Generations was taking place. And that conversation kind of extends to other Sonic games. You think about Sonic Unleashed, like, what were all these characters doing Unleashed? What were all these characters doing during Frontier? So maybe they could actually expand upon this in further Sonic games in the future. Sonic and Shadow Generations doesn't have to be the last time that we do something like this, and I'd be open to it. But back to the main conversation that we're trying to get to, who is this mysterious fourth character in Sonic Generations? Well, I have a couple of theories. So to start off, we have one candidate. We have Black Doom. Now, Black Doom is featured throughout some of the gameplay that we've seen from different gaming outlets. So obviously Black Doom and Shadow are basically inseparable. Black Doom is one of the creators of Shadow the Hedgehog, and clearly he's going to be the influence for the powers that Shadow has in the game. He's the only other prominent character that we've seen so far, and he's going to serve as the primary antagonist of not only the first Shadow game, but also the new Shadow game. So it's possible that maybe some form of Black Doom could be playable. If not, maybe like a powered up version of Shadow or something like that. Maybe that'll be the alternative version. So it's certainly possible that we could see some type of playable Black Doom. Maybe there's a 2-player mode or something like that. Who knows? But it seems likely considering he's the only other character that we see. Could it also be just a character bio for Black Doom himself? That's certainly possible, and it's definitely the least fun fun option, and we're here to have fun, speculate, and theorize. But also, Black Doom's been featured all over the game's marketing. Why would they keep him like a secret on the website? It makes no sense. But also, that's a possibility as well. Here's another dark horse. Here's like a reach. I don't think this is that likely, but it's certainly possible given the scope of the story of Sonic Generations. Silver the Hedgehog is someone that certainly could be a fourth playable character in some capacity. Now, you'll notice that he's also one of the rivals that Sonic faces in Sonic Generations, and time travel is something that's integral to his story. You know, he actually fights Sonic in the story. As a dark horse candidate, I could see Silver the Hedgehog having some role in the Shadow campaign because we need to know what he's up to during the duration of the story of the game. Is it likely? Probably not. Is it possible? There's a shot. Let's move on to the next one. Another unlikely but not impossible candidate would probably be Metal Sonic because he's also featured in the campaign as like a rival battle. You know, what's Metal Sonic up to during the events of Sonic Generations? Especially when you consider the fact that his father, Eggman, is lost in time and space. So he could be possible, but I think even more unlikely than Silver. Another dark horse candidate could be Terios. I mean, it's been revealed that we're going to get a Terios skin for Sonic and Shadow Generations. Well, as far as the lore and canon goes, Terios isn't canon. You know, Terios is an early concept for Shadow the Hedgehog, but it's been shown that we're going to get some cool skins for Sonic and Shadow Generations. We also have an Adventure Sonic skin. We also got a Sonic Jam skin, which I'm super excited for. I really can't wait for this one. So is this a possibility? As far as the lore and the story and the canon goes, it's actually probably less likely than Black Doom, Silver, and Metal Sonic because it's just a cosmetic skin. But listen, we can't rule everything out. Next up, we got Sonic himself. I mean, he's the main character of the franchise. He also crosses paths with Shadow in Sonic Generations, so, you know, it's definitely not ruled out that maybe you can play as Sonic at the end of the campaign. Although, due to the fact that he's kind of doing his own thing during Sonic and Shadow Generations, I don't think it's likely he's going to be one of the playable characters, but certainly not ruled out completely. To be honest, it would be really cool to see both of their paths intersect and let Sonic be playable in the Shadow campaign, in addition to letting Shadow be playable in the Sonic Generations campaign, even if it's just cosmetic. But let's move on. Here is another dark horse candidate. Now, this isn't canon, right? There's no such thing as a classic Shadow, so don't hit me in the comments saying, actually, there's no classic Shadow. But, you know, maybe in terms of cosmetic purposes, similar to the Terios skin, classic Shadow or something of the sort, maybe like a younger version of Shadow, could potentially be playable in the campaign. After all, we are dealing with Shadow's past and Shadow's creator, so who's to say that we can't potentially go back to the earlier days of when Shadow was being created on the Space Colony arc? Is it impossible? No. Is it likely? No. That's just a theory. Another potential candidate, perhaps Rouge the Bat. She has a close relationship with Shadow. I believe she's actually rescued around the time that Shadow Sonic face off in Sonic Generations. Potentially Rouge could be like a reskin character for boosting. Not really sure if that's going to be the case, but let's move on to the next one. Another thing they could probably slap in the character bio is like Doom powered Shadow. Maybe there's going to be a new form that he assumes when you look at the wings and stuff like that. It wouldn't be as exciting as some of the other stuff, especially considering the fact that we already know this, but certainly a possibility. Last but not least, I guess we'll throw a shot in the dark. Maybe a new character actually appears in the game. I don't think this is likely considering the fact that it takes place in the past, so I don't think they're going to add any new characters to the game, but hey, maybe it's a possibility. So yeah, guys, a potential fourth mystery character could be coming to Sonic and Shadow Generations. Who could it possibly be? Well, I have no idea. That's why we made this video, to speculate, but let me know down below in the comments what your theory is for the fourth mystery character.